Okay. So trying this again. Hopefully it actually connects this time because I dead ass was sitting here talking to you guys and it just wasn't streaming. So I'm gonna try this again. Hello and welcome to everyone who is watching the Written Melanin channel. Wherever this day may have found you, I'm so glad that you are here. Um, stress, stress. Just so y'all know, I actually wasn't late this time. I really wasn't. I really wasn't. I was over here trying to get the software to work and it just was like, I'm over here talking and I'm like, no one's in the chat. No one said hello. Nothing is moving. And then I'm like, okay, calling Ben. He has on his headphones. He can't hear me. And I was having all these technical difficulties. It was just stress. It was just stress. But it's Tuesday, so I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are thriving. Shout out to everyone who's already in the chat. I'm glad you guys could make it. I hope your mornings are going a little bit less stressful than mine is. And yeah, like I said, it's April 1st. We've made it to a new month. We've made it to a new quarter of the year. And that's crazy. Normally by this time of the year, I'm like, wow, this year is really going by really fast. And now I'm like, wow, we still got like the better part of 3 years and some change to get through. That's crazy. That's crazy. It's kind of dragging its feet this year, but that's fine. That's totally fine. Shout out to everyone who's in the chat. TEB is here. Good morning. Darian, Mags, La, Ben, Ash. Good day, ma'am. Mags is here. Angels of Power is here. Good morning. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing great, doing wonderful. It's been these 2 weeks have been something. It has been something. We have plenty to talk about. Today. That being said, if there are things that you guys want me to touch on, feel free to put them in the chat. I don't know if you guys know this, especially if you're not part of the community, but if you're in the Discord server, you always have the ability to run some topics by me if there's something that you want my opinion on. So this is my unabashed suggestion to join the channel or join our membership over on the Melanin Library website. Doing so supports the Melanin Library, the channel, and all the things that we do. And it gets us closer as well to doing another anthology. And it, depending on what tier you do, it gets you into the DNF book club as well. So there's a cute little join button down there on the channel. Feel free to click it and also tap the like button while you're down there because it helps. It helps. But yeah, let me know how you guys are doing. I'm going to go ahead and get into this Melanin Spotlight, which is Losing Sight by Tati Richardson. So if you guys have been paying attention to the channel, if you're subscribed to the podcast, then you'll know that Tati was on the podcast. I would say recently because her episode aired recently, but we talked last year. And she's really dope. We've been mutuals online for a very long time, and we had a really great conversation about writing older protagonists and just the industry as a whole. So if you guys are interested, the video's on the channel, as well as you can listen to it wherever you get your podcast from, right? But Losing Sight is a romance, an adult romance, of course, about let me just read y'all the description. How about that? Instead of trying to summarize it from memory. Losing Sight. What if a mysterious pair of glasses helped you to see life and love clearly? Sports reporter Nikki Ryan is at the top of her game until she isn't. Squinting at the teleprompter and flubbing lines, she loses her coveted Thursday night football spot to a younger, less qualified woman, and that's only the start of her troubles. After her impaired sight leads to an accident nearly costing her life, Tanika finds herself in the office of handsome widowed optometrist Gideon Miles. There, mysterious circumstances lead Tanika to an enchanted pair of glasses, changing her world and Gideon's forever. With help from her boss chick village and a bit of magic, Tanika finally learns to see the love that's right in front of her eyes. I kind of butchered that summary, but it does sound incredibly cute. So, I've seen the book floating around online, like reviews of it, and everyone that I have seen talk about it has had a good time with it. So if you're interested in adult romance, if you wear glasses, okay, because going to the eye doctor is a very very real experience that I feel like a lot of authors can connect to. I don't know. Do a lot of authors wear glasses? I feel like everybody that I meet has impaired eyesight, but that could just be a generalization. That could just be a me thing. But that being said, the book is available in the Melanin Library. Y'all already know there is a link down in the description box below, so feel free to get into it. That being said, you guys, there have been things going on in the bookish community that I personally, I don't know, I have opinions, I have thoughts. I think is the better way to go about it, right? So I don't know if we're necessarily going to go in order, but let's just start. Let's start at the beginning, right? I want to talk about the unfollowing trend, right? Because apparently there is or was conversation going around on the internet about authors unfollowing reviewers and bookish influencers or whatever, and those influencers having, we'll say, feelings and opinions about the authors no longer following them. And I just find that to be so interesting because it's always, I don't know, I feel like it's always an argument, right? One minute it's authors shouldn't be in reader spaces, authors shouldn't be doing this and shouldn't be doing that. But then as soon as authors are like, okay, gonna take a step back, I'm going to like not have this showing up on my feed, readers are like, how dare you unfollow me? That's so petty. Or like, why would you do that? I thought we were cool. It was just one bad review of your book. Like, why would you do that? And I'm just kind of like, it has to make sense. Like, make it make sense. What are authors supposed to do if they're not supposed to be in your spaces, but they are also not supposed to unfollow you? Because that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense, especially if you are an influencer who is reading their content. Because I feel like it's one thing, like me, I don't write romance, so I feel like it's one thing if I, as an author who writes like fantasy, specifically like darker fantasy, and follow like a romance influencer, because it's just like, you are probably not ever going to pick up my books. My books are probably not going to come across your radar. If I'm following you, it's truly like as a reader and I just want to see your content, right? I feel like that's completely different than me as a fantasy author following someone who specifically reads and reviews Black indie fantasy with the hope and intent that they will review my stuff, right? I just feel like that in and of itself is a different conversation, right? But I feel like there's also this conversation of, okay, when you do, as an indie author specifically, right? When you do reach out to people looking for reviews and people to read your book, you're just kind of like, okay, you want to reach out to people who you've seen their content and you're like, okay, I like what you do. I want you to do this with my book or my product, right? And I personally, in my experience, have found that people want you to have been following them already and to not have just been like, oh, you followed them today so that you can send them a message, right? So it's like, which one do you want? Do you want me to follow you and see your content before I reach out to you? Do you want me to be a mutual before I ask you to do a thing? Or do you want me to be a stranger and not follow you at all and not be in reader spaces? I feel like it's always sticks in one hand, half dozen in the other. Like, people want it both ways, you know? Let's see, been said for some authors, it's probably much healthier not to follow reviewers. There's also that. I actually got a comment on a short that I posted like a while ago, but it was a new comment this morning. And she mentioned that, you know, authors are people and they are going to look at reviews. Because I said something about, you know, just being confident in what you're putting out into the world, right? So that if you do get a bad review, it doesn't like completely shake your foundation as an author, and just know that, okay, when I put my book out, this is the best I could possibly do. So if you don't like it, that's not a me thing. It's not a talent thing. It's like, okay, you just didn't vibe with my writing and you didn't vibe with what I was doing, right? But she brought up the point of like, you know, authors are going to look at reviews, and saying that and asking them not to or telling them not to is just not, you know, not logical, right? I didn't necessarily agree with the not logical part, because I am definitely of the camp where it's just like, if you as an author, and you have to know this for yourself, right? If you know that you are prone to crash out over a negative review, you probably should not be looking at reviews, especially not going like out of your way to go find reviews, right? It's one thing if you're like, okay, you're looking at ARC reviews or you're looking at early reviews or you're looking for ways to promote your book. But I think it's completely different to constantly be looking for new reviews on your book and having it sway you left or right, right? I'm just kind of like, you kind of have to know where you fall in that. But that's my 2 cents. But I'm just kind of like, if authors know, if you know that you're prone to crash out on the internet, I think it's a very good idea to unfollow some reviewers, especially if they read your stuff or they read your friend's stuff or things like that. Like, I think it's perfectly fine to have boundaries. And I just thought it was the wildest thing that people were having discussions about whether or not authors are allowed to have boundaries when it comes to like their career and what they see online. And I feel like it's completely counterintuitive to, the block button is free, right? Which is the idea that you should be curating your spaces and what you see. So I would love to know what you guys think about this whole shenanigans fiasco about reviewers feeling some type of way. But I don't know. I know that my perspective is skewed because I'm also an author, but I don't know. I unfollow people all the time. I literally unfollow people all the time because it's just like, I might have liked your content back in like 2020, 2021, but we're in 2025, babes. I don't know. I might not vibe with you anymore. It's fine. Also, Bianca is here. Hello. Good morning, love. I hope you're doing well. I'm glad you can make it. But that said, you guys, that said, I also want to talk about bookish brand trips because I feel like that has been going around in the bookish community as well. Let's see here. Max said, if you don't want authors to follow you but still want to be reached out to, potential reviewers should have a press kit. So give those authors a way to evaluate and reach out without following. That part, not gonna lie, I really wish that there was a way to reach out to influencers and reviewers and to just be like completely honest and be like, look, I am looking for promotion. I'm looking for reviews and I would like to work with you. How would you like me to go about it? Because one thing that I have found personally is that, I don't know if this makes me old school or not, but I'm one of those people where I'm like, I don't conduct business on social media, like in the sense of like Instagram and like Twitter and Blue Sky and all that. I don't do business in the DMs. I may reach out to you in the DMs and be like, hey, send me an email so that we can work out the details. But I'm not the person that's gonna be like, yeah, going back and forth with you on Instagram. So I really wish there was a common way to be able to go about it, to be like, hey, I like your content, or I'm looking for someone, you do X, Y, and Z. And I know there are a lot of influencer programs and things that are kind of popping up, but as an indie author, getting access to those things is a whole other ballgame. But yeah. Also, Winter is here. Hello, good morning, love. Yeah, the amount of people that I have unfollowed or muted or just straight up blocked, I have no shame. I have no shame in it because it's my space and I can curate it how I want. Authors have a right to do that, yeah. And that part, if they want to be influencers like the other niches, they should have a press kit. I think I stay looking for folks links. Yeah. And it's one of the things that I talk about in my video, my latest how to be an indie author video as well. Like when it comes to like branding yourself as an author, is one of the reasons why I'm always like, you need a website as an author. You need a place with your links. You need a way to present yourself to people who want to work with you, especially as someone who reaches out to people for podcast interviews and things like that to work with. I'm really like, I need a place to confirm and see your links and connect with you, right? If all I have is a Facebook page and an Instagram, I'm likely to be like, nah, this probably ain't it. But yeah. Let's see here. Timothy is here. Hello, welcome. Andy is here as well. And Vina, welcome. Let's see here. Too many authors just don't know how to act, and that's why so many reviewers feel the need to make it clear they do not want authors in their spaces. Yeah, I think we need to bring back professionalism. I don't know when that went out the door, but yeah, definitely bring back professionalism and how people act on the internet. Let's see here. I don't think anyone is required to follow or continue following anyone else. Somebody should be hurt by an unfollow. So some people definitely are, though. They definitely are. I don't have a social media account, period, so I got to find a way to promote my book outside of that when I finish writing. Yeah, social media is definitely the current wave, but there are ways to go about it if you don't want to. A big one being like a newsletter and in-person events. There are definitely ways to do it. You don't have to have social media. It's just you have to take on a different strategy, and so much advice is centered around having an online presence. But yeah. Let's see here. Venus said Threads is helping me cut down on my TBR, has turned me off from so many authors. You know, I feel like Threads has I'm not gonna say authors, right? Because I feel like personally, I don't on Threads specifically, I don't necessarily follow other authors for bookish content. I follow them for like people content, if that makes sense. Um, and I talked about this in my how to be an indie author video, but I feel like there are a lot of authors who lean heavily into the promotion side of being on social media, and I prefer the people who are like the community side. And I find that generally speaking, the people who are there for more than just promoting their books have content and personalities that I vibe with just a little bit better. But Threads always has something going on, and I'm just kind of like, wow, we really don't feel joy over here, do we? That's crazy. That's insane. That kind of brings me to the brand trip thing that was going on. So if you guys are unaware, there was a Shelves in the City is what it's called, I believe, and it's held, like, it's sponsored or held through HarperCollins, and essentially they get together a bunch of bookish influencers and they fly them out to a location. It was LA. I don't know if the location changes or not, but it was LA this year. And for like a week, they do like their bookish stuff. They have a week where they're just, it's paid for by HarperCollins, and they're out having a good time. But there are obviously, if anybody is doing something and everyone is not included, I really feel like is that idea of like, if you're in class and you have a pack of gum and you give a piece to like one or two people, but you don't give out the entire pack to all 25 people in your class, then the other people who didn't get one are just like, well, she didn't give me a piece of gum, so I don't like her no more. I feel like it's the same kind of energy, because people were really on the internet big mad that they were not included in this brand trip. And I'm just kind of like, that's insane. Like, they can't send every bookish influencer on the internet who's ever posted content, right, for one of their books. That's just unrealistic. But it was also this idea that it was very clear that like smaller platforms were invited, and it seemed like some people were really upset about that. Like, why did they get invited and I didn't? And I'm just kind of like, I feel like that brings up so many things, especially when it comes to like community, specifically the Black bookish community, and doing events and things like that. Not to mention that, like, and this is no shade to anyone, but not to mention that, like, this was a trip paid for by HarperCollins, but I haven't actually seen any book content. Like, I've seen trip content, which is really cool, but I haven't seen any book content. And I'm just kind of like, is that coming? Are they working on it? Or like, what is I'm curious. I personally would like to know the purpose behind the trip, other than just like bragging rights of like, I got invited, I'm curious about that. Let's see here. The bookish stuff shouldn't be this serious. Sometimes I feel like an old person because social media does just as much harm as good, and it makes me so tired of humanity. No, that's real. That's real. Sometimes I forget that I feel like people forget that, like, it's books, and social media is supposed to be social, but I feel like it's taken on a life of its own outside of its like intended purpose. I only caught the tail end of folks either taking up for the Black bookish influencers. Folks need to realize them acting up over who got to go now will definitely have them blocked from going. Yeah, I saw that. And I saw somebody else on Threads talking about like, hey, if you want to go, these are the things. And one of the things that they had like a list of things, right? But the biggest one that I noticed is like, you have to post quality content consistently in order to be considered. And I think about that. I'm like, I feel like there are a good portion of people who are bookish influencers, but they're not posting all the time. Because I think about the people that I saw that I recognized, and I'm like, they post content all the time, and it's not always go read this book content or I love this book content. Sometimes it's like personal updates. Sometimes it's just funny stuff. Sometimes it's just general like bookish, memeish kind of content. Sometimes it's friends only, but they really genuinely have like a community and a platform built up around them. And I think, and this is just my 2 cents, and maybe I'm manifesting in my own way, right? But I feel like there was a point in time where the internet was 100% about numbers. It was 100% about how many people were following you, how often you posted, right? And I feel like this whole trip, especially with the smaller platforms, is really highlighting the fact that we are moving into a new era where it's like, it's not just how many numbers you have, it's the content, it's the engagement, it's the community, it's, you know, the vibe around what you post in your corner of the internet. Because even the smaller platforms that I saw, they have, they post regularly, right? But they also engage in the comments. They also post to like friends only. They also support indie authors. They also do so much more, and they are like a personality and not just a I'll say not just a character of themselves. And what I mean by that is like, y'all know there are those those influencers who are very much just like, I only do this. Like, you know, the best example are the ones who film themselves waking up in the morning. Like, what? You do not look like this first thing in the morning. This is a live reenactment. This is not what it really is, right? But it's that kind of energy, right? I feel like the smaller accounts are the ones that are really like, yeah, I'm here in my bonnet, or I'm here and I'm taking my braids down, or I'm here and I'm talking about this book. Oh, I was so confused for a second, y'all. That broke my entire train of thought. Benjamin, your headphones are in here, and the reason you can't hear what's coming through your phone right now is because I hear it over here on the side of the desk. So if you want to come get them, that's great. I need you to know that I heard a man's voice, and I did not know where it was coming from. I was like, is it the Google? No, that is much louder. I was like, where is this sound coming from? Is it in my head? Am I going crazy in real time? That's wild. But no, okay, sorry. Distracted. Distracted. I don't even know what I was talking about at this point. Let's see here. Vina said, not even seeing books promoted from the trip. That's the other thing. I'm not sure what the trip was meant to accomplish, other than bringing brand awareness to HarperCollins because they hosted the trip. I'm not sure what else is supposed to come from that. The most I saw was bookstore content, but folks weren't even posting HarperCollins books like this. I noticed that too. It was I saw it literally this morning, but one of the bookstores was there. And it sounds like they could have saved their money on this trip and spent it on some of the authors who could use marketing. Okay. All right. Well, we should talk about this. We should talk about this. Let's see. It's not even so much about quality content, because not everyone who got chosen posts quality content. The biggest thing is having a following and catching the eye of a specific account. I think I would say this. I feel like it depends on what is defined as quality, though, because I feel like quality could just mean that it's like it fits for that person, right? I don't think quality always means like in-depth reviews or putting together good lists or anything like that. I think quality is more so there was intention, perceived intention. Let me put that. There's perceived intention behind the post, and it appeals to enough people who resonate with it. And I'm not talking about specifically the influencer who was, you know, recommended to you, Vina, right? I'm not talking about her, but I'm just talking about like in general, because I feel like there's all different types of content, and I feel like there's also this encouragement for people to kind of replicate the same template. But I also feel like when it's different, that's when you kind of really get that engagement and also attention, for sure. Because the thing is, I saw a specific influencer, I'll say, post about how she made a call, and a lot of people got on awareness, like influencer lists and PR boxes, and I'm curious how many of them were invited. I'm always curious about what happens behind the scenes, and I'm not saying it's specifically this one person, but kind of like going to what you said, Vina, about catching the eye of a specific count or specific people. I think people forget that social media, a lot of it is like networking, and the totality of what you do and how you interact online is seen, right? And the people who are invited to these things, I will say this. I can only speak to the Black influencers who went on the trip, because let's be real here, that's all I saw on my timeline. I'm be honest, right? But I also noticed that almost all of them interacted with each other at some point. And so I'm also curious if it's either Black booktube and Black book content is really just that much of a niche, right? Where everybody knows each other, which I genuinely don't believe. There are always people coming in and people leaving and all of that good jazz, right? But if that's not the case, then I also think it's, to a certain extent, people were invited who the hosts believed would make good content together, which works in their benefit. Because I'm pretty sure like trying to get networking and collaboration is also the name of the game for trips and things like this. So it's just like, if you got people who not following each other, not engaging with each other, never respond to each other, are not in the same algorithmic circles, I'll say, then that also makes a difference. But I know that I've seen from at least like 5 or 6 people content where it's just like, yeah, they interact with each other and they did so before, and then they met up in like in person at the event. So I think there are a lot of factors that go into it, but I definitely agree that I think I have mixed feelings about the trip. Going back to, what you said, Andy, regarding like the money going towards supporting and marketing the authors, right? Wait, hold on. Can't do 2 things at one time. I'm reading Venus comments. I know how many Black authors who publish through HarperCollins who can't even get a post on their social media pages outside release day. And I saw someone make a good point about what types of events they're doing for booksellers and librarians to make them aware of what books are out this year. And see, I think that's the thing. I don't know. I feel like, and this could just be me, but I feel like a lot of these companies don't really know what they're doing, and they're kind of just throwing darts at the wall and trying to see what sticks, right? Because they definitely want recognition of the company, right? But it also goes to, what are you doing to support the authors? Because at the end of the day, your company is only going to be as well known and successful as the authors themselves are, because they're the product. They're the ones who are bringing you money, right? The idea that the trip shouldn't have happened in favor of the authors, I'm more in favor of the authors should have been included on the trip. And I think it would have been interesting if part of the trip was these influencers who have these platforms meeting authors and talking to them, and maybe doing a collaboration video or making some type of content around these HarperCollins authors who need a marketing budget, right? I feel like there is so much potential in these things to work. Especially if you brought influencers who regularly do live events and setting something up to do something like that. I feel like it could have been used to promote the authors, because I feel like, who was it? Lore of the Wilds, that author, I think she was at the event, or she was at the bookstore when the influencers came, right? Because she also posted about it on her profile. And I'm like, okay, but imagine the cross promotion that could have happened if there were authors and the influencers got to like meet them and talk to them and get ARC copies of their books in person and signed. So it's more than just, oh, I got a box, and there are like special goodies and things. Like, I don't know, in my mind, I'm like, this could have been a really great event that supported both the influencers and the authors, because the reality of it is, influencers do a lot of work for free, and I do think it's a good idea to pay and reward influencers who you notice are really like helping your brand and helping what it is that you do. I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea, but I do think it should be done with purpose. I do think it should be done with like a goal in mind, right? And it all of this, like the conversation around all of it, kind of makes me wonder, how do I put it? It kind of makes me wonder what it would look like if these things were intentionally organized and put together for the Black bookish community, meaning like influencers and authors, Black influencers and Black authors intentionally, right? And not just being like, oh, you were also included, but like it's an event for us, you know, because y'all know that's where my mind always goes. I'm just, I would be so interested to see how that would turn out, because I feel like there are always like reader retreats and stuff going around that you can like sign up for. Like if you want to travel and things. And there are always, you know, writers retreats and stuff. That's one of the things on my to-do list. When I can afford the time and the money to actually organize something like that, I would love to do like an actual writers retreat at some point. But that being what it is, right? I would love to see us like come together and organize something so it's not a, oh, you got left out or this person wasn't there, but it's just like a, did you come? Did you participate? Did you decide? Like kind of having like a choice versus it being an invite only type of situation. Because I also feel like, ooh, and this could be a problematic opinion, I don't know. But I also feel like people only feel that way because it was invite only and they feel some way about not getting an invite. Because I feel like if it had been like an open invitation type thing or an application type thing or a ticketed type thing, a lot of people would not have paid attention to it, would not have wanted to be a part of it, would not have cared about it in the slightest. But because it was invite only, people were up in arms about it. But that's my 2 cents. That's my 2 cents. Spend it how you like. Um, the last thing that I kind of wanted to talk about that I feel like this conversation has been going on for a while is this idea that, not even idea, but the pushing the conversation that Black authors should have their books go to Black influencers. And I feel like that kind of goes to the point of, you know, the marketing dollars and who's getting the arcs and who's getting the ability to read these books and talk about them earlier on. And it kind of came to the like top of my timeline because Ladarian Williams is, you know, his second book, Bones at the Crossroads, I will say, is coming out. Let me tell you something. I ain't never read Blood at the Root, but I will say that this man stays on his marketing game. Like every time I get on Threads, every time I get on Instagram, that man is there. He's like there at the top of my timeline. So I'm like, he's really doing his thing, especially on Threads. So shout out to his marketing consistency. I gotta respect it. But that being said, one of the things that he does talk about is how he was very adamant with his team to be like, hey, I want the book to go to Black influencers and Black bookish influencers specifically, or at least first, right? And so I think about that and I wonder how many authors are really making that push behind the scenes and behind the smoke and mirrors and everything. Because as we all know, there are really multiple facets to this whole publishing thing. And there are some authors who are like, I want everyone to read my book. And then there are some who are like, this book is for the culture. I want the people who look like me to get it, right? And so I think I'm at a point where, you know, rooting for everybody Black. Yes, absolutely. But I also think we're at a point where it's just like, okay, it's not just sending it to Black bookish influencers, but it's sending it to Black bookish influencers who are going to read the book and promote the book. And it actually makes sense for them to get the book, right? And not just cold sending books to people. Because I see that a lot online. I'm like, I don't know, maybe you have to have a big enough platform, but I'm just like, people really just be sending books, not paying attention to who they're sending it to or why. And I'm just kind of like, that's crazy. That's crazy. Let's see here. I know Bethany Baptiste also talked about making sure Black readers got arcs. Yeah, there's some authors who are really loud about being like, I want to make sure that the Black readers get it. And, you know, ironically, I don't know, it's not even ironically, but like when I really think about it, I feel like those are the authors that I really see on my timeline and the ones that are at least on the front of like my feeds and what I see and what I am like, oh, this book, I should make sure it's on the Melanin Library. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should reach out to them for a podcast because it's who I follow. It's who I follow, and I follow Black bookish influencers. So it's like if it comes up on their feed or if they're talking about it, then I am like 90% more likely to at least be mildly interested in it or pay attention to it at the very least without just like glancing over it. And so I feel like there is a large market that's not being tapped into. Not just for Black authors, but for like white authors as well. It's not just a one size fits all kind of thing, but definitely, just, I don't know. I would like to see Black influencers be able to do more of the things. Right? I want to see more of the PR boxes. I want to see more special editions. I want to see more collaborations on larger scales. Like I want to be able to see the platform scale in meaningful ways and not just for like a chosen few, but it really being like if you put the work in, if you do it, like this is something that can really be done, you know? And I want to see the authors have marketing budgets and support behind them so that it's like, yeah, no, we're going to get you into the market and the audience that you're really reaching for. You know, we're not going to just set you aside and be like, good luck, you got this, you know? The number of white books I get when I say I don't read them. You know, I feel like this goes back to that original conversation of I feel like influencers should definitely have PR boxes. Or is it boxes? I don't think that's the word that I'm looking for. But PR kits, right? And I feel like especially the influencers who get to a certain level of, I'll say, well, that's not notoriety. That's not the word I'm looking for. I really am struggling with the words today. But a certain level of recognition, I feel like they should, like the publishers should have those on hand, on deck. Like don't even bother sending this to them, because I know when I first started the Written in Melanin podcast, I would get a lot of like, oh, I think this person would be great for the podcast. And I would just have to respond and be like, hey, thank you for reaching out. I would love to work with your marketing team in general, but I don't, but only Black authors the podcast is only for interviewing Black authors, right? And so I had to be very clear, and it took like years, and I still get some that come through the cracks sometimes. They were just like, hey, we'd love to. And I'm like, this is the mission of the podcast. This is the mission of the brand and the platform. So I wish you the best of success, but this platform isn't where I can highlight this author, right? And so most people are really good with that. I've only had like one person kind of be icky about it. But other than that, I feel like those are the type of things that people should keep on file. And I feel like some people do. I feel like there are some agencies that are like, oh, there's no point even reaching out to this person about such and such book, which I appreciate. Makes going through my emails a lot easier. A lot easier. Let's see here. Getting romance books when I've said on public record that it ain't my bag. Yeah. I used to get a lot of like historical, like nonfiction historical reads, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know how or when or why that started coming up on my radar. Like historical romance or historical fantasy is cool, but it's not my bag. I'm very much more of a fantasy girly, and definitely romance when applicable, right? Thriller sometimes, but anything outside of that is just kind of hit or miss. And y'all know I don't be reading books. That's why I had to start the DNF book club, because I was like, I need to I be reading them, but I don't always be finishing them. So I'm just like, you can send me the book, but I make no promises. But yeah, I think authors should go to their publicist with a list of influencers to prioritize, especially if we're getting into books 3 and 4 in a series. By then, an audience should be built up. Ooh, that's a word. I think a lot of authors, you know what? I'm not gonna say that on the public live. But yeah, definitely paying attention, because even as an indie author, like I have the 3rd book of the Wrath of the Gods series coming up, But when it comes to time to send out arcs, I am definitely going to be reaching out to people who I know have read both books already. It's not going to be trying to reach a new audience at all. It's just kind of like, I hope you've been here. And if you haven't, I hope you are willing to like start. But trying to read two books ahead of reading the third one in order to promote is unlikely. Once you're 3 or 4 deep into a series, you are really targeting to a niche audience. I used to get offers for Amish romance. Wow. And never once have I requested or expressed interest in Amish romance. It was a black publicist who kept sending me those requests too. Interesting. Maybe because the publicist was black. She was like, I'm going to shoot my shot. Maybe that's it. I feel like we need more publicists though, like in general. I feel like at one point it was like everybody needs a social media manager. I feel like we're in an era where it's like you need a publicist. Beyond a certain point, you need someone to help you navigate the space of the internet, because everything you say can and will be used against you in the future. You know? Okay, Andy, I need clarification. Do you want an arc of my book, or are you wanting this arc of the Amish romance that Vina is talking about? Because I feel like that's two different requests. But yeah, I don't know. All that said, you guys, like, I just, as a community, I would really love to see the influencers who kind of hold things down, especially the ones who are really consistent and have been around for like years at this point, because being consistent for years, that's skill, that's talent, that's work, especially with all the ups and downs that social media has taken in just like the last 2. To still be around and still posting content is like a feat. It's a feat. Okay, just, I just making sure, Andy, I didn't know, maybe you had a what is it, oh, I can't think of the words. Why can I not think of the words today? Jesus be offense. I don't know, maybe it was like, your secret little joy to read Amish romance. Never, you never know. I wasn't gonna judge. But yeah, but I will pitch you on the short list for book 3. I got you. When it's ready, I got you. But yeah. What was I supposed to say? Oh, it is we are coming up on 12 o'clock, which means we're about to slide on over to the after chat. So I actually can tell you guys, we have a new membership, is it program? Like, we've had the Patreon for a while, but the membership is now actually hosted on the Melanin Library website. So you can go to, shop.melaninlibrary.com to our store, and you can actually join the membership from there, and it'll support us a lot more directly than it was through Patreon. So if you like the content, if you like the channel, if you like the Melanin Chat, the after chat, the writing sprints, the how to be an indie author series, the podcast, or any combination of those things, and you like to support, you can do that now, or you can always join the channel. It takes you to the same place. You get the exact same benefits whether you join the channel or you join the community through our website. Same benefits, same Discord server. Get access to the after chat and or the DNF book club, which I think we did. We announced our first book for the book club. Our first meeting is coming up at the end of this month. It is the last Wednesday, April 30th. It is going to be starting at 7 p.m. Let me not tell lies. 7 p.m. Eastern time. And we are reading A Song of Race and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. So if you would like to come join and read this very black book and talk about it in a safe space and have a good time with some good conversation, for sure, join the channel, join the membership. It is behind a paywall so that we can make sure that it's a safe space for everyone, readers and authors alike. Although the author is not going to be in the chat, just to be perfectly clear. But I don't know. I just believe in having conversations in safe spaces where it's just like you can say what you really think about a book without having to face the judgment of the entire internet. You feel me? So that is that. Get into it if you would like to support and be a part of the conversation. Like I said, first meeting is coming up April 30th, and we also have these really cute mugs. So if you're into that, you can get that off of our store like immediately. I'll go ahead and actually add it to this video so that you guys can see it. But other than that, I don't think there are any more major updates that I need to tell you guys about right now at this moment. So that is going to be it. Thank you guys for being here. If you refresh this page, you should see the DNF book club mug down at the bottom of the screen. If you want the green one, you got to join the channel because that's for members only. Sorry, hate it. But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for being here. Are we still liking the stream or not, y'all? I mean, I would appreciate it if you did, but I can't say what to do because y'all are grown. So, but that's it. We're sliding over to the after chat. So we will be back. I will be back next week for writing sprints, same time. And the week after that, we'll be back for another Melanin Chat. So go ahead and like the stream, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications, and join it if you are that cool person. And that's it. Until next time, you guys, I hope your days are lovely and your books are interesting. Bye, you guys.